Yo, what's up, guys? It's Houston Sports Hub back in the video today, and today we're going to be going over my biggest winners and my biggest losers of the 2024 NBA trade deadline. I'm going to be going over 5 winners and 5 losers in this NBA trade deadline, talking about teams. Let's start with winners. First of all, my biggest winner in this year's trade deadline, I think this is probably almost everybody's winner this trade deadline. It has to be the New York Knicks. If you want to go all the way back to when trades started happening, started off with OG Anunoby acquiring him. Sure, you had to give up some good talent like, Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. I think that's going to hurt them. But the trade they just made today, getting back Alec Burks and also acquiring Bojan Bogdanovic, I think another guy it sucks to get rid of, like Quentin Grimes, but they got Bogdanovic and Alec Burks, and draft pick-wise, they only had to give up 2 second-round picks. And sure, they gave up Grimes, but still got Bogdanovic and Burks for basically Quentin Grimes and 2 second-round picks. Sure, they gave up Evan Fournier, but he was not in the rotation for them, and he's not going to play for Detroit either. Sure, they gave up Malachi Flynn, but he's not been playing for New York either. And Ryan Arcidiacono has not been playing for New York either. So the only guy that's been in their rotation this year that was traded in that Piston deal is Quentin Grimes. But they've acquired OG Anunoby, Alec Burks, and Bojan Bogdanovic. They're my biggest winner throughout the trade deadline. And then I think what this next team, what they did this deadline is going off through. It's not on the radar. The Dallas Mavericks. I think they gave up a lot to acquire these 2 players, but getting Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington and adding in some size to their team, I think will be very helpful for them. They didn't have to give up any good of the young assets. Some guys that teams wanted, that Jaden Hardy and Josh Green, they didn't have to let go of either players. They trade away Seth Curry, who sure is a great player. Steph's brother. He's a good 3-point shooter, but he's not been in their rotation this year. Grant Williams started off the season great. Loved what he was doing to start off the year, but he has not been good as of recent. Has actually been making some key mistakes for this Dallas Mavericks team. Sure, they give up a first-round pick for P.J. Washington in that deal as well. But with the way Washington's been playing this season, I think it's worth it. And that first-round pick is not for a while until 2027. Then you go to the Washington deal. If you look at what Daniel Gafford's doing this season for the Wizards, he's been excellent. And they need size. Outside of Derek Lively II, I don't think there's a lot of size there. And then you add in 2 guys like P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford. I think that's going to be great for Dallas. And I think Luke is going to have great chemistry with both of those guys. I think both players will be great additions. You only had to give up Rashawn Holmes and Seth Curry, 2 guys who have not been there in the rotation. Also, Grant Williams and a first-round pick for P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford. That's a huge W for the Mavericks. Then another team is the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns just dumped off a bunch of salary and second-round picks to land Royce O'Neal and David Roddy, and that's the big reason why I have them as a winner. What the presence that Royce O'Neal will bring in for that Phoenix team is not being talked about enough right now, and I think he's going to be great. The Suns team has been playing good as of recent already, and I think this will help them even more. He's a good defensive player. He's a good 3-point shooter. He can come and play the small forward or power forward position for them, or if they need him to, he can play the shooting guard as well. He'll bring some size, he'll bring good defense, and he'll bring good shooting. I think he'll be a good asset for the Suns. Also, David Roddy will bring some depth off the bench. He's had a solid season with Memphis, and they're only giving up second-round picks and salary that really doesn't matter. It's Metu, Jordan Goodwin, and a couple other players that really haven't been doing much for the Phoenix this season. And then for my final 2 winners, I love the Thunder and what they did in this deadline. I think it sucks to get rid of a young talent like Trey Mann, but to get Gordon Hayward and add in some veteran leadership to this young Thunder team, I've said this throughout the season since we knew the Thunder were going to be so good. This team needs some veteran leadership, and I think Gordon Hayward's a great guy to have if he is healthy. They're a winner. They're a winner in this year's deadline if Gordon Hayward stays healthy. They didn't give up much. They gave up some draft compensation, which I'm pretty sure are just a bunch of second-round picks. They gave up Davis Bertans and Trey Mann. Sure, Trey Mann has some upside, but he is neither one of those players have played in the rotation at all this year. So they're getting a guy like Gordon Hayward, who's a good scorer, and brings veteran leadership, and will be a great asset for the Thunder to have in the playoffs if healthy, for draft compensation that has not been named yet. I think it was a second round pick that they announced, or multiple second round picks, and Trey Mann and Dolphs Bertans, who are not a part of their rotation. That's a W for the Thunder if he stays healthy or not. I still don't think this, unless Trey Mann becomes a superstar. I think the veteran leadership he'll bring to this team on the court will be amazing. I think he'll probably stay healthy, and we're already hearing now that he probably will be back for the Thunder very soon. And then the final one I have is the 76ers. They've opened up some roster spots for the buyout market. I think that's going to be really, really nice for the 76ers as well. Look out for Kyle Lowry, man, or Spencer Dinwiddie. But the big addition I love is Buddy Hield. They need three-point shooting. He brings great three-point shooting, great spacing, and they need that. They need good three-point shooting. I think Buddy Hield brings that in. You need good three-point shooting. There's another guy that does that too, and that's Cam Payne. You also get a second-round pick in this year's trade deadline as well. So you get a second-round pick. You get Buddy Hield. You get Buddy. So you get Buddy Hield. You get Cameron Payne. You get a second-round pick. You open up multiple roster spots. In return, you only give up Furkan Korkmaz. He's not been a part of the rotation this year. Daniel House Jr. has been in and out of the rotation. Also, Marcus Morris Sr. and Patrick Beverley. So you give those four players, you get Buddy Hield, Cameron Payne, a second-round pick, and open up a couple of roster spots for the buyout market, which will be some good players to potentially bring in for Philadelphia. So I think this was actually a good trade deadline for the 76ers. Now let's get to the losers. Cavaliers, they're one of my first teams on the list. The Cavs have been playing great recently, and that's undeniable. They've been playing great basketball, but here's a fact. We heard they were going to make some moves this deadline. They were going to make a move or two, and they were going to try to improve their roster by maybe letting go of Isaac Okoro, and they ended up doing nothing. I think they could have really improved with all the other teams in the Eastern Conference, improving their rosters. 76ers adding in Buddy Hield. The Pacers a couple weeks ago adding in Pascal Siakam. Also, you have the Knicks adding in OG. Also, Bergson Bogdanovic. I think even though the Cavs are red hot right now, have won 14 out of their last 15, they could have added in something, and they didn't, which is, we'll see what happens with Cleveland, but they're playing red hot basketball right now. All right, next is Lakers. I don't think it's terrible that the Lakers didn't do anything this deadline, and most of the losers I have here, 4 out of the 5 losers I have here are teams that didn't make a move. But I think it was a good idea to keep Russell. I don't think he had a lot of value, and he's not playing that bad for the Lakers right now. The only thing I would have tried to do if I were the Lakers is try to move Gabe Vincent with some draft picks, and try to improve the roster on that end. Maybe try to get a player that improved the roster by moving off Vincent with draft picks. But Lakers didn't do anything, and now they lose the Denver Nuggets tonight on Kobe Day as well. Then the Warriors. They actually did do something, but it's not what you think. They actually traded away somebody. Corey Joseph was sent to the Pacers, but I don't think it's terrible that they didn't do anything. I just think they could have. I don't think there was really much the Warriors could do, in my opinion. Kuminga's off the table. I think Clay didn't have a lot of value, and I don't think they should have moved him anyways. Draymond, I think, shouldn't. I don't think he should have moved him anyway. Either. I think there's only a couple. There's about 3 players that the Warriors maybe should have tried to shop. I know he has a lot of young talent, but maybe Moses Moody you could have tried to put out there. Kevon Looney and Gary Payton II. But ultimately, I bet for the Warriors, the reason why they didn't make any trades this deadline is probably because the fact that they felt like they couldn't really improve their roster by any of the offers they had. And Wiggins, I think that There wasn't probably there wasn't any deals out there that the Warriors could improve their roster by letting go of Wiggins. So I think the Warriors weren't. It wasn't terrible to not do anything, but I just don't know if the Warriors can be successful with the current team they have. I think they can make it to the play-in, but I don't even know if they can make it to the playoffs with the current team they have. Another team I have as a loser are the Utah Jazz. I don't like what the Utah Jazz did this trade deadline. I didn't like that they moved away Simone Federico. I thought he's been playing great for them. And they basically gave him all for nothing, a second-round pick, and Kevin Knox. It probably wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Knox gets cut. Simone Federico would have not been hard to re-sign. He's been playing great basketball. He's been shooting the ball well. And he's a restricted free agent, so he would have been easy to re-sign. And then another trade I don't like for them is, it's not terrible, but trading away Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji for a first-round pick. It's nice to get a first-round pick, but the 2024 the 2024 draft class is kind of weak. That's one thing, and then also another thing is that the Jazz, they are competing to make it to the play-in or the playoffs, and they gave up assets that have helped their team. Olynyk and Federico have helped their team throughout the season, and Ochai has made himself available when potentially needed if injuries have happened. And I know those were two guys that were free agents going into the summer, but those were two guys that easily could have been re-signed by the Jazz. And Federico probably would have re-signed with Utah. That's another thing. But I think the only reason I don't like it for the Jazz is that I don't know how this changes with, them still trying to contend to potentially make it into the play-in or the playoffs. And then my final loser is the Detroit Pistons. The only reason I'm turned off by the Pistons, I really like the Simone Federico trade that I just talked about with the Jazz. That's a deal I really like. I really like the upside he has only in his second year. He for a power forward, he's a good three-point shooter and just a decent scorer and a decent rebounder as well. I really like him as a player. And there's a good chance Detroit brings him back. I mean, he has, yes, he's in the last year of his deal, but he's a restricted free agent. Detroit can match any offer that is made to him in free agency, and Detroit has a lot of money to spend in free agency going into this next free agency. But I like that deal for Detroit, but there's not a lot of deals that they made that I did like. I'm turned off by the trade, the Bogdanovich trade. I think they could have got more. We heard they wanted this amount of first-round picks for Bogdanovich. They settled for Quentin Grimes and 2 second-round picks. I love the addition of Quentin Grimes, and I love the addition of Federico, but I feel like they could have got more for Bogdanovich and Alec Burks and Quentin Grimes and 2 second-round picks, and a bunch of other players that are not going to be effective to their team. So I'm listing the Pistons as my final loser in this year's deadline. So going over it all quick. Winners: Knicks, Mavericks, Suns, Thunder, 76ers. Losers: Cavaliers, Lakers, Warriors, Pistons, Jazz. That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and peace out.